Hi guys, what's up? My name is Mackenzie and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be going over the books I read in October. It was actually a very good reading month for me. I read 13 books considering I was really struggling with trying to get into a reading slump, so I'm very impressed by myself. First, before we go over what I read, I want to go over the 2 DNFs I have for the month. So yeah, let's do that. First DNF. This is a forever DNF. It spells Trouble by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. So I'm not gonna lie, the book wasn't terrible. However, with that being said, there was just some really weird... the thing that really tipped it over for me, okay, is the mother-daughter relationship. The mother in this book was talking to her teenage children like how I would talk to my sister, or maybe how I would talk to my friends. So obviously, like, that kind of made me feel weird, like making comments about their, well, no, not even comments I would make to my friends, like comments about boobs and virginity and all that stuff, and I felt very uncomfortable. So yeah, unfortunately, beautiful cover, didn't like what was inside. I DNF'd it. I think I was like, I don't know how far I was into it, but Olivia was reading this for her Patreon pick, and unfortunately she DNF'd it too, so yep, such a bummer. I love this cover, and actually this is a signed copy, but unfortunately it just didn't work for me. The next book is a soft DNF. I read this in my childhood and I really don't want to give up on it, but it's The Revenge of the Shadow King by Derek Benz and J.S. Lewis. So here's the thing, I am 65 pages into this, and this book is reading very pretentious. So here's what I mean. So our main character's name is Grayson Maximilian Sumner III. Why such a long name, you may ask? Because he's rich. No. But all jokes aside, I'm not loving the writing as much as I was, obviously, when I was a child. I remember laying up curled in my bed reading this book. I vividly remember how bad this book scared me. I don't think it'll scare me now, but unfortunately this just wasn't my cup of tea. I will be holding on to it. I might push it off until maybe next year around Halloween and see if I'm in a different reading mood by then, but again, kind of a bummer, but what can you do? Now let's get into like all the good books I read this month. So first off, we have A Gathering of Shadows by V. Schwab. Sorry if I look down at my phone is sitting right here. I need it for the order of these books. A Gathering of Shadows was so great. So if you don't know, this is the second book in the Shades of Magic trilogy. I believe there's actually going to be more books in the series, but I guess we'll see. The first book follows Kel, and he is a magician that can travel between the 4 Londons in this world. I'm so sorry if you can hear that. I guess there's a guy outside doing something to the apartment. I don't know what he's doing. Anyways, Darker Shade of Magic follows Kel, and he is an Antari, meaning he can use blood magic to travel in between the 4 different Londons of this world. And one day, while he's traveling back to his home London, unfortunately, he gets given this artifact that is very, very dangerous, and it goes from there. I will say, I love the first book. I love the first book. It is one of my favorite books of all time. I think I've read it 3 times now. This book, unfortunately, did not live up to what I wanted it to. A very strong book, just not 5-star feelings right now. I can definitely see it changing in the future, but just like right now, not 5 stars, unfortunately. But 4 stars is still really good, and I love B. Schwab's books, so I'm very happy I finally got to it. This book I read was actually a very pleasant surprise, and it was Bunny by Mona Awad. I would give you a synopsis of this book, but like I truly don't even know what to say about this book. This is the most surprising book of the year. I am so surprised I liked it. I honestly thought this was going to be like one of those books that I hated when I read. But here's what I can kind of tell you. So Sam is our main character, and basically in this book it is about her getting into this cult kind of thing with these girls, and they call them the bunnies. There is just so many things I cannot explain to you about this book. I can't wait to go back and like reread it. Chloe read this for her Patreon pick, and it was a reread for her and Caitlin. So I'm sorry if you've been hearing about this book from like literally everybody on BookTube, but I loved this book so much. I really want to reread it. Definitely gonna go and check out both of Mona Awad's other books. Love this. Love the cover. I had to buy the hardcover. Bought it on eBay for like 16 bucks, so that's better than $33. Again, I love this book. It is phenomenal. I can't wait to reread it. Maybe in December. I shouldn't read it 2 months in a row. I want to, but I'm not going to. Sorry about that intermission. So, the next book I read was Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. She is the author of the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and this is one of her newer books. I believe it came out last year. The book is so phenomenal. If you haven't read it, basically it follows witches. Witches have to be very careful. They can't share their power with anybody or, you know, anything like that, because it can be very dangerous for them. I feel uncomfortable. It can be very dangerous and like really life-threatening for them. At the beginning of this book, witches start being murdered. So Amelia and her twin sister are tasked with staying in the house and just staying safe. Well, Amelia actually finds her twin sister dead one night, and this book is about her trying to figure out how this came to be. Like, why is her sister dead? Like, what's going on here? I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was phenomenal. Like, I really love this book. If you guys are on the fence about picking it up, like, definitely pick it up. The second book just came out last month, I think, so yeah, I would highly recommend this book to like literally anybody that it sounds interesting to. I will say this has very different vibes to the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. So just because you like that doesn't mean you'll like this, and just because you don't like that series doesn't mean you won't like this. This is more fantasy heavy. One thing I will say, I'm hoping is rectified in the second book. Witches don't really show their power at all in this book, mostly because it's dangerous and they'll get killed and stuff. That was like the main complaint I've seen of everybody everywhere, but it didn't bother me. Phenomenal audiobook as well. I would highly recommend the audiobook to this. I loved all the characters. It was phenomenal. The next book I read was House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I actually read this book at the beginning of the year, like in May, I believe. May or maybe April, I don't remember. I really needed to do a reread of this. I love this book. So if you don't know, this book, it follows our main character, Iris. And Iris has always had quite a weird life. When her and her sisters were younger, they actually got kidnapped for a month. And when they were found bloody with no clothes and no recollection of what actually happened. Ever since then, her and her sisters have always been different. They've had powers. Basically, at the beginning of this book, we learn that her oldest sister Gray, and her middle sister Vivi, her two sisters have actually left the house. But right as they're about to come back, weird things start happening, and Iris finds that she has a very weird stalker. So she finds out that Gray is also missing, so now they have to figure out who the stalker is and where her big sister has gone. I love this book. It is so weird. It is so eerie. It is so creepy. Like, perfect vibes for October. The next book I read was actually a new release, and it's The Marionettes by Katie Weismer. I have been putting this book off for a while, and I actually ended up listening to the audio of this book. Marionettes is about a girl named Valerie, and in this world there are witches and vampires, and she's actually preparing to become, like, it's not like a mate bond, okay, it's like, for lack of a better word, I'm gonna use mate, but that is not, it's not a romantic thing. It's more like, I don't know. Ari is going to this academy to work up to being able to mate with a vampire. Again, not mating, just the only word I can think of. And she actually gets, maybe I should say bound. She gets bound to the prince, the vampire prince of this world, and things ensue from there. Very, very fun book. I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to reread it. I'm definitely going to reread it, hopefully this year, maybe next year. The second book comes out in December, and I'm so excited. The cliffhanger in this book was top tier. Again, I really like this. I love Katie Weismer's writing. This is her best writing to date. I love this. It is like such a beautiful cover. She's an indie author. Highly recommend this as well. Yeah, I definitely need to reread this physically and annotate it, because yeah, I'm very excited. The next book I unfortunately can't hold up and show you because I don't own it, but it is Geekerella by Ashley Poston. Geekerella is the first book in the Once Upon a Con series. It's a retelling kind of Cinderella. Our main character, Elle, is actually really struggling with the fact that her all-time favorite show, I think it's called Starfall, is rebooting with an actor that she doesn't particularly care for. After a number of circumstances, she actually ends up texting or getting a text from the lead star of the franchise. They end up falling for each other, but neither of them knows who each other is until, like, you know, obviously the ending of the book. Would highly recommend this book. It was super cute. It was super fun. It made me smile. I ended up rating it 3 stars, but again, like, perfect. I love this book. Like, it's really good. One day I'm definitely gonna buy the series. The next book, unfortunately, I also can't hold up because it's at my parents' house in a box. But that's Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff, the concluding novel to the Nevernight trilogy. What can I say about this book? I loved it. I ended up rating it 4 stars. Nevernight, the first book, follows Mia Corvair, and she has been training her whole life to right what has been wronged, to kill the person who killed her father. So she is actually going to the Red Church, a world-renowned school for assassins, and she is going to learn how to become the best assassin so that she can kill this person who killed her father. I love this series. I really like, the second book is definitely my favorite. I will say the first book I highly recommend, like, really thinking about it before you read it, because the first 100 or so pages are a slog to get through. It took me twice to try to get through it. I ended up rating it 5 stars, I believe, in the end, because the book was phenomenal. I would, like, highly recommend the series if it's something that sounds interesting to you. I loved the ending of the trilogy. The next book I read was The Princess and the Pop Star, also by Ashley Poston, book 2 in the Once Upon a Con series. This book follows Imogen Lovelace, who has had a very boring and monotonous life, and Jessica Stone. And Jessica Stone is actually one of the main characters in Starfield. She's Princess Amara. Princess Amara got killed off in the last episode of the TV series, but Imogen really wants Amara to come back. Basically, Imogen and Jessica have to switch lives. Imogen really wants to save Amara, so she's going to try to do that. And then Jessica wants to switch lives with Imogen because she actually lost the script to the second Starfall movie. She actually ended up accidentally throwing it away, and now it's being leaked. So this is kind of about Imogen realizing that her life isn't as boring as she originally anticipated, and Jessica realizing that it's not just about what she wants, like having to do with Starfield. Like, it's a lot deeper than that. This one was definitely probably my favorite in the series. It has a cute female-female romance, if that's something you're interested in. I really loved this book. Next book, I rounded out the Once Upon a Con series with Bookish and the Beast. And Bookish and the Beast was definitely another, like, you know, it was probably the second, like, the one I liked second most, if that makes sense. This one follows Rosie and Vance, and Vance is basically kind of canceled for being a bad boy, like, you know, all that fun stuff. He's canceled for being a bad boy, and so he is sent to this middle of nowhere town, and Rosie is actually really struggling after the loss of her mom to figure out what she wants to write her scholarship paper on for her college. And at the beginning of the book, she actually gets fired from her job because of something really stupid that happens, and she almost runs over this dog in the road. She doesn't, and she follows this dog into an old decrepit looking house, I think, and she ends up accidentally ruining one of the original Starfield books. And so she has to rearrange this whole library with Vance, and Vance is less than thrilled about it. I really loved it. One day when I have the room, I'm gonna buy the whole series, and it's gonna have a special place, and I'm definitely gonna annotate the books. I love them so much. They are just what I needed. They made me so happy, as you can probably tell. The third to last book I read this month was Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This book follows Mare Barrow, and Mare is actually a pickpocket slash thief, and she's just doing it so that her family can survive. But one day she accidentally pickpockets the prince, and the prince actually takes pity on her and gets her job. And while she is doing her job, she accidentally unleashes a power, and for her, she should not have this power. She is red blood. She has red blood, and all the people with powers have like silver blood, I believe. I really love this book. If you haven't read it, like, please read it. The next book is Carmilla by J. Sheridan Lee Fanu. And Carmilla is actually the OG vampire novel. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh, Red Queen was 5 stars, if I didn't tell you guys. And Carmilla is also a 5-star book. I'm going to read you a little bit of like the book description on Goodreads because I don't really know how to describe this book, even though I read it and loved it. Okay. In an isolated castle deep in the Austrian forest, Laura leads a solitary life with only her ailing father for company. Until one moonlit night, a horse-drawn carriage crashes into view carrying an unexpected guest, the beautiful Carmilla. She begins a feverish friendship between Laura and her mysterious, entrancing companion. But as Carmilla becomes increasingly strange and volatile, prone to eerie nocturnal wanderings, Laura finds herself tormented by nightmares of growing weaker by the day. Predating Dracula by 26 years, Carmilla is the original vampire story, steeped in sexual tension and gothic romance. I really loved it. The audiobook is also phenomenal. It's a very short audiobook as well, so I would highly recommend the audiobook for it. I love the narrator. Second to last book I read was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. City of Ghosts follows Cassidy Blake and her best friend Jacob, who is a ghost. Her parents, which are ghost hunters, but they don't know that their daughter can actually see ghosts. It's like kind of a middle grade version of Vicious almost, where she gained powers from a near-death experience. Cassidy is just a delight to read from. I love her perspective. But not least, we have one more reread, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I wanted all the happy, good vibes that this book gives, even though it's not really happy, good vibes, necessarily. If you guys don't know, this book follows Selena Sardathian, and ever since she was young, I think she's 19 or 18 in this book, I think she's 19 actually. So a year ago from the time that we started this book, she was actually caught and reprimanded because she is actually a very well-known assassin, and she was sent to the salt mines of Aveyard, and she's actually one of the people who's lasted the longest in this camp. Well, at the beginning of the story, we learn that the Crown Prince and his father are actually having a competition to find his dad's next champion to do his bidding. So Dorian, the Crown Prince, takes Kale, the head of his guard, and goes to get Selena out of this prison. I rounded my rating up. I put it up to 5 stars instead of 4 stars. I love this book. I love Selena. Is this the most well-written of Sarah J. Maas's books? No. But I really love this. I love the characters. I fell head over heels for Dorian in this book. I forgot how much I loved him. I really love this book. I highly recommend it to anybody who really wants to read it. The rest of the series is just as phenomenal as the first book that I read, and I loved almost everything I read this month. In fact, I loved everything that I read this month. I highly recommend all of these books that I talked about. If any of them sound interesting to you, highly recommend checking them out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end of this long video, comment the ghost emoji for October, and I will talk to you guys later. Oh, also, comment what your favorite book you read was this month, and let me know if you've read any of the books that I read this month, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye guys.